oftentimes I'm asked, why is that microphone not plugged in? And I says to him, that's because I suck. But anyway, the other question I get often is, did you use that microphone as a dildo? Second most asked question.
The answer is yes.
Third most asked question is, does that microphone currently stink like buttock? Yep, sure does. Why? Stuck it up my asshole. No, but the fourth most asked question I get is, what's the most horrifying thing you saw in prison? There's a lot of things. And this might not be the worst, but it's definitely one of the most tragically awful things I saw in prison. And I didn't even see it face to face. Yeah. I was a second-hand observer of this, and it was horrifying. So that gives you a clue as to how fucking bad this was. Now, before you go, oh man, well you heard it through the grapevine, it's bound to not be that terrifying. No, man, this was bad. And the person that was my source, by the way, was my cellie. And me and my cellie got along pretty good. This particular cellie got along pretty damn good. He was my homeboy. And I'm just saying, dude, this guy came back terrified, shaking, and ghost white. And he was a brown man to tell me this account. And it took him like 2 hours to tell me. And there was more people that were witnesses to this, so he wasn't the only person. And they all pretty much told the same story. And every time, it was skin-peelingly horrifying. So we're going to talk about that. Because it was... Why am I still talking to my dildo microphone?
It stinks real bad.
I'm wafting it your way.
I'm trying to keep it together here. It freaking reeks.
Look, man. It's time to tell this terrible tale. But before that, I'm going to give you a tiny terrible tale. To kind of warm you up, to ease you into this horrifying tale. The tiny terrible tale is as follows. One day, we're going to lunch, and they line you up and they take you over there, And so we're on the way, and then all of a sudden they stop us, and they're like, hey, you better go back to your dorm. And I'm like, whoosh, just rewind back into the dorm. And everybody's kind of pissed. Nobody wants to miss lunch. And it's the only time they really get to get out of the dorm, really. So we all head back, and we're like, what the hell's going on? 5,000 hours later, we're like, why haven't we eaten yet? And why do we hear helicopters and shit? Well, it turns out that somebody was basically, well, first of all, they were killed, but
all right.
So it's not basically they were fucking murdered, but they basically had their throats torn out by somebody else, and the helicopter we're hearing was the medical helicopter coming to pick them up. Of course, by the time they did, the guy was already dead, so it didn't really matter. Not that they care.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I didn't get to see it, so it's a second hand. Kind of goes in what I'm going to tell you later. And we're going to lunch, which also ties in. But I did get to see the aftermath. And it wasn't even... This happened in a dorm that was neighboring us. Okay? So we knew people in the dorm. And apparently the whole thing started because of some sort of race issue. Not, I hate you because you're this race, but because
they were doing a race and someone lost.
Somebody lost, man. Not happy about it. No, man. Race is a big thing in prison because, there's a bunch of idiots in prison, so of course race is an issue. So that tells you something about America, huh?
Yeah.
Bunch of fucking morons, in case you didn't get that. Shit, we're a dumb nation. We're still hooked up on this race thing. But anyway, race is a big thing, and a bunch of black guys were partying hard. It was somebody's birthday, and some Mexican guys got pissed, and they told them, hey, can you quiet it down? We're trying to sleep here. And they didn't quiet it down. The response to that was a third uninvolved white party took this opportunity to slit the guy's throat.
All right.
And look, in terms of the way things go in prison, it kind of made sense. Oh, look, tensions are high.
Yeah.
I'm going to kill someone and they're going to take the blame. It makes sense. What doesn't make sense is that you do it in front of everybody, you fool! So, yeah, anyway, that guy got, obviously, a longer sentence. But, yeah, the next day, it was actually 2 days later, that they finally let us go to lunch because things kept to settle down in the entire unit. Because once some racial shit pops off, everybody's all of a sudden on alert. Like, oh, fuck, am I going to get stabbed just for being fucking whatever I am? So, anyway, Once things calmed down, they let us out to go eat finally. And mind you, before that, they just took the food to us. So we're not starving there. But, they finally let us to go eat. And as we're exiting the dorm, all over the concrete, there's blood. I'm talking like from the entrance of the dorm building all the way maybe like 25 feet. Blood everywhere. Human body only holds so much blood. This dude's fucking dead in the air the moment they lifted him out of there. But yeah, I never saw that guy again. So he's dead.
Obviously.
Anyway, that'll warm you up. Or really, really freeze your heart.
Yeah.
This is the fucked up story.
I like how you started with like this just freaking dildos and
now it's all like somber
all morbid and shit.
Look, man, this story is actually pretty fucking sad.
You gotta give us a dildo. Yeah. Okay, good.
Thanks.
Yeah.
No, man, this story is actually kind of fucking tragic. All right, and it took place in the kitchen, and people were, the day was over. The workers were getting the kitchen clean, which in prison terms means they were pissing on utensils.
Yeah.
Yes, that happened. Yes, they caught the guy. Yes, we realized we had eaten with pissed on utensils. Anyway, all the guys were getting the kitchen ready for the next day, cleaning it up. Now, this is prison, guys. Chemicals are sometimes used. Most of the time, though, you're just cleaning with water.
Yeah.
And the way they cleaned the kitchen floors was they would heat up. They have this big industrial pots that they cook massive amounts of food in, right?
They're eyes of newt.
Eyes of newt, tail of, whatever, rat, I guess.
Yeah.
They would cook the food in these industrial vats. Well, once they got those vats cleaned, they would boil water, like bring it to a seething boil in these vats, and then pour that water into these trash cans, like those plastic container trash cans, the thick ones, the industrial ones, but it's still plastic. Yeah. So anyway, then they would tilt these trash cans onto the floor and, just flood the area with a bunch of hot, insanely steaming water, and then just wait for that to kill the germs, quote unquote, and then squeegee that water into, the drains and shit. That was the cleaning technique. Anyway, dude, there was this guy that they called Black Elvis. Reason, he was black. Reason number 2, he had Elvis sunglasses.
All right.
I'm talking like, they look like Elvis sunglasses, I'm talking about big chunky ones. Gold and everything, gold looking. And everybody liked this guy, man. He was like that guy that was happy to be alive.
Yeah. Despite
being in the place he was at. He saw the good side of things. And he was always working in the kitchen. Always happy, always singing a little song, a little ditty, just making people smile or whatever as best he could. He was kind of a cool cat, older guy.
He's like the Paddington.
Yeah. Only, he probably stabbed someone in his life.
Good point.
But yeah, Black Elvis was a pretty cool cat, man. Just a guy that everybody generally liked, no matter who they were. You got some fucking neo-Nazi scumbag over there. They're like, "Oh, Black Elvis, man, what's up?"
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He was that guy. And he was an old cat. Maybe like mid-70s. He was pretty old school shit. But anyway, this is the guy who this misfortune happened to, man. And this is what happened. Marcelli was there. He saw it all. He was terrified, and when he finally told me, this is how the story unfolded. They were staying to clean the kitchen, and Black Elvis was so old, and his shift was early anyway, that he didn't have to stay. But he was so about the moment that he would always stay and help them. So this day, they tell him, "Oh, Black Elvis, why don't you drag the old steaming vats of fucking water onto the, into the dining area so we could tilt them over and clean the floor." "Cool," says Black Elvis, because he's a team player, this guy. They pour I can't stress how hot these things, industrial fucking boilers, dude. Yeah. And they pour the water into these plastic trash cans, and they drag them. So Marcelli says that whenever they did this, the heat would warp the trash can. You know what I'm saying? Understandably so.
Good idea.
But since these are industrial trash cans, it would somewhat retain its shape, and then they just tilt them over, and that was that. And then when they'd cool, they kind of go back to normal shape. So Black Elvis, a 75-year-old man, is trying to drag this thing, and it's heavy. You know, these trash cans are tall. You've seen the trash cans are big. He's dragging this thing, and he's putting his body weight into it. You already know where this is going. Mm-hmm. He's putting his body weight into it because he's a fucking skeleton with skin on top, basically. I shouldn't have said that because of what's going to happen, but he's dragging it, dude, and he slips because he's an old man, and you know it's a shitty floor, and there's water and stuff everywhere. He slips, and of course he's still holding on to the lip, and as I've aforementioned, the water is steaming, and it makes this shit malleable. So what happens? Yep, that water just pours all over him. Pours all over Black Elvis. Mycelli says that the screams were like unlike anything he's ever heard. I can only imagine.
Probably like, oh.
Yeah, man. Fuck. Put that on record, because shit, it would sell 1 million. Dude, I can only imagine, man. Imagine the fucking agony of that shit.
It's pretty bad.
So this is the scene as he described it. Black Elvis is writhing and screaming as steam rises off his body. They can't get to him because they can't step into the water. So they're just kind of like, holy shit. Cops are freaking out, obviously, because it's under their watch.
Yeah.
He says Black Elvis is on the floor screaming, you know, kind of writhing about, and that he lifts his arm and his skin just slows off. And I'm like, holy shit. Holy shit. So eventually they managed to get a hose in there and they kind of throw fucking water everywhere, which, by the way, not recommended.
Yeah.
An immediate drop in temperature might be bad. But anyway, they managed to get to Black Elvis eventually, and they attempt to pick him up. And sure enough, whatever they touch, skin is falling off. They end up trying to get him from his shirt to pick him up because the skin's falling off on people's hands. And when they pick, you know, when the shirt tense under the pressure of picking him up, rips his skin off. So they just have to leave him there. If 50 years later, the medical helicopter comes in, they take this guy away. By then, he says that, you know, just like his chin had kind of melted into his chest. And, you know, Black Elvis was never seen again. Last I heard, he was obviously undergoing extensive medical care. But I never heard of Black Elvis again. God knows what happened to him, if he survived the trauma of it. But easily the worst thing I've heard, and just seeing Mycelli so shaken up by it,
shell shock.
Well, yeah, was kind of shocking in itself.
Yeah,
you know, and coincidentally, I had met a guy in prison that was a burn victim, and he had no pores. His skin had just basically melted on him. His arms were kind of like bat winged onto his body, and then the top forearm was bat winged onto his upper arm, you know, and he kind of walked around like this, and you know his neck was kind of fused to his chest type of thing. He was not a pretty looking guy, you know, but he had survived.
Did he walk around nude?
Yeah, well, this is what he would do. Despite being in that condition and being very uncomfortable, because he had no pores in the summer, he was always hot, so he would always go in the shower and just stand there in the shower.
Oh yeah, you told me.
Yeah,
they would just send people.
Yeah, they would. Whenever somebody new would come into the dorm, they would send them to the shower, and that might sound weird, but in prison, when you get somewhere new, a lot of people will ask you, go clean yourself before you interact with anybody. So they would send people into the shower, and it was kind of like an in-joke at that time. This guy would be in a corner where he wasn't seen, just kind of there sitting underneath the shower, you know, and people would walk in and he'd come out like some sort of horror movie monster and, like, you know, scare them. So he'd be like, you know, making these weird sounds and shit. Yeah, he took it in stride, and, you know,
might as well, right? You're freaking.
But it's kind of sad because that's how I got to know that guy. But, you know, everybody got to know Black Elvis in another light.
Wow.
And just to think that he might be that way, especially at that age.
Yeah.
It was pretty fucking horrible, man. And I didn't even see it eye to eye.
Yeah.
Pretty bad. So anyway, this is depressing.
He's probably dead.
I hope so, honestly, man.
Yeah.
Imagine? Fuck that shit, man. I'd rather be dead than live like that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And you gotta go back to prison.
No, I'm sad. Yeah. Oh, you're healed, Black Elvis. Well, sort of healed. You look like a gum now, but yeah, let's go back to prison.
Yeah.
Finish your sentence. Yeah, fuck that. Anyway, let us know what you think of this super depressing story. And, you know, I'm sad now. Anyway, hit like, share, subscribe, and those notification buttons because we're out.